Wagwan, Wagwan. Welcome back to the DIY Yardie channel. Welcome if it's your first time. In today's video I'm working on a 2009 Nisan Murano replacing the alternator. These are the tools you'll need: a 14mm wrench, flat and a Phillips screwdriver, needle nose pliers, 10, 12, 13 and 14mm sockets, 3/8 drive, and a universal or flex joint, and extensions for the 3/8 ratchet, and also a 3/8 ratchet. Always use a jack stand. Place your vehicle's park brakes on and block your wheels. Disconnect the battery. Alright, you can disconnect the negative post or the positive post of the battery. I usually disconnect the negative. First thing we're going to do is remove this little section here that it's like a dust cap or mud flap. It blocks or covers the engine to prevent dirt and water from getting up on the belts and the wheels of the engine. So this is a Phillips screwdriver. These are like plastic bolts or screws, and this is what it looks like. You unscrew it and you just pull it out. Alright, so there are actually supposed to be 4 on this here, but on this vehicle you can see there's a lot of oil, so this is going to be a messy job. That is actually the cause of the failure of the alternator on this vehicle. It happens a lot. If on this vehicle you go to check your oil and you don't put the dipstick all the way back in and make sure it's in sealed. Okay, so next we're going to remove these clips that I'm pointing out to you right now. I'm using the screwdriver. There's actually a tool for this, but if you're not going to use that tool, you can get by with a screwdriver. And all you have to do is you get this the inner pin started, and you can use the needle nose pliers. Once you get it open like this, you can grab it with the needle nose pliers and pull it out. Sometimes it's kind of tight. The needle nose pliers will pull it out, or if it comes out like I just did, you're good to go. Alright, so this is the wheel well cover. So I don't need to remove the entire thing. I'm just taking like the front half loose and push it back out of my way to give me some space to work. Alright, now got that out of the way. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the belt. Alright, so the drive belt, or the serpentine belt as it's called, I'm going to go ahead and try to get that off of there. Now like I said, this vehicle has been driving for a good while with the dipstick not all the way in, so oil has been pumping out onto the alternator, and the belt has been splashing it all over the engine. This is a 13mm, and I am right here on the belt tensioner. Okay, I don't know if you can see that hole up in the middle of the screen there. When I push down on the tensioner, you'll see that hole, those 2 holes align. What you want to do is get like a screw or maybe an Allen key, something that'll fit in there, to lock that tensioner. Alright, I'm going to show you what I mean. You push down on it, the holes align, and once you push something in the hole, I'm using this screw right here. Okay, so push down on the tensioner, and I'll push those in the holes to hold the tensioner. That way I can get the belt removed. Alright, see, I got the screw in. Now normally this belt should just slide off, off of this pulley, but because of all the oil and dirt and stuff is kind of sticky, the belt has became kind of like gum almost, holding it on there. So what I realize I'm going to have to do is, in order to get the belt off, I'm going to remove this pulley, which I needed to move out the way anyway. Alright, so this is a idler pulley, and that's also a 13mm. I'm going to go ahead and get that moved out of there. Once I take that off, then I can easily get the belt moved. Okay, that's off. Then I can just grab the belt and take that out of my way. Yeah, like I said, if you get an oil change, because that's what happened in the case of this car. I got an oil change and the dipstick wasn't pushed back in all the way. So this right here is the actual this is an oil sensor, oil pressure switch. So you just got to squeeze and pull. It's kind of, you know, slippery with all the oil. That's why it gave me such a hard time. This wire I'm actually going to remove out of my way, but for now I'm getting this coolant line loose. It's a 10 millimeter, and I'm doing this job without draining the coolant or the refrigerant. Okay, so I'm trying to make it easy on myself with the least amount of work possible. Okay, this line I'm also going to have to move, and you have to pry up on it, but you can't just pry up to remove it. There's a little clip in those little clips there. It has like a retainer on each side. I'm going to show you how I do that, but before I do that, I'm going to remove this inner piece. You spread that open and lift up on that clip. Okay, and I'm using my flat screwdriver to do that. And then I'll take that hose out of there and let it hang. Alright. So I'd already taken it out, but I'm going to show you, you know, what you have to do to take it out without breaking these clips. Alright. So when you're done, you're going to push it back in and lock it like that. So I'm going to show you how to get it out of there now. If you try to press up on it, like just press it, it's going to break these clips that hold it in place. So what you have to do, put a little pressure on it and use something else, maybe another screwdriver. Okay, and you want to push these little retainer clips in while you're pushing up on it. Okay, make sure it's cleared on both sides and you just pop it out, and you do that to all of them and you're good to go. Alright, so I'm gonna make some space to work. Basically, that's why I'm moving this stuff. Okay, so now this is one of the lower the AC compressor bolts. These are 14 millimeters. Alright, so I'm taking this one out all the way, and the one on top I'm just going to loosen for now. I'm not going to take it all the way out of there yet. I'm going to let it stay in place to help support the compressor. Okay, just want to make sure it's still there for a little support. So now I'm going to the back of the compressor, but first I have to move this little piece of plastic here, and it's the same plastic clips as on the wheel well. Okay, so that's actually the alternator that you're seeing now right up there, and you can see that thing is loaded with oil. All or most of the oil from the engine has been pumping out onto this alternator. So in a sense, this alternator going out actually saved this engine, because if he had kept driving and the vehicle didn't shut down, he probably would have locked the engine up. Alright, so this is another coolant line I'm pulling. This is right below the compressor. That's a 10 millimeter also, and I'm loosening all of this stuff just to get some more room, because I have to drop the compressor, or the compressor has to drop down some more for some more clearance. So I'm taking that out to gain some more access or space to work, really. Or you can say clearance. Okay, so this is the power supply to the compressor, and that's also has a little tab that you squeeze, you smash and pull back on the plug, and everything is a little harder because of all the oil. So it's, you know, kind of a greasy job right now because of all of this oil. And it would have been good for me to wash this engine down before I did this, but where I am, or where the vehicle is, there's no, I didn't have access to doing anything like that. All right, so I just got to go through some gloves and try to do the best I can. All right, this is the line from the oil pressure switch that I unplugged before, and actually didn't get it on film when I was taking these clips apart. But basically, all you need, you can use the pliers, and what you do is where it connects, you just squash these little tabs in, squash them in, and when you squash them in, you can just pull the line off. Okay, that's all it is to it. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna go to the back of the compressor. These are 14mm bolts, and there are two of them, a lower one and an upper one. All right, so try to get this lower one pulled first. I'm trying with my 14 and my wrench, my ratchet, that is. So it's in there kind of tight, so say, you know what, I think I'm gonna try with a wrench instead of the ratchet. I can do a little trick with my wrench and get some more leverage. You can see that's a 14mm, and this is a ratchet wrench, which it actually helps to speed up your work also. So I'm using two wrenches. The second one is for leverage. Okay, so you see, got that broken. I'm going to try to turn with my hand. I guess I'm going to grease off of there, or the oil. It's not working, so go back to the wrench. And these bolts are pretty long because they actually run through the compressor, or the back, almost the entire width of the compressor, and into the engine block. So they're pretty long bolts. And this is what it looks like. That's the lower one, and the upper one is the same length. Okay, so let me show you where the upper one is. Straight up there. Alright, see if I can get a better angle with the camera. Okay, it's the one to the right. I'm going to put a pointer on it. It's the one to the right. Okay, this one here. This one to the left, don't touch that one. If you pull that one, all your freon is going to come out of there, and you're going to be in a big mess. Okay, so remember, it's the 14mm to the right. The other one, I think it's either a 12 or a 13, so your 14 won't even fit on there. So if you're trying to pull it with a 14, or if you put a 13 or a 12 and it fits, you're pulling the wrong bolt. Okay. Alright, so I got that back one out, and this is a little trick that I'm doing to give me some more space to work. Just pulling my line down and hooking it in this hole under the subframe. Okay, the small screwdriver, it doesn't have to be a screwdriver, you can use anything that you can find that'll just jam that in there and hold the line down to give you some more space to work. Alright, so from here I'm going to remove my 14 on the top. And once I get this 14 removed, you don't have to worry about the compressor, falling out of the car or anything like that. The lines on the compressor is helping to hold it in space, as well as it's sitting on the subframe right here and the engine block. Okay, so it's not going anywhere. It's secure. All right. So next, we're moving on to the alternator. Now, I've seen a lot of people, when they do this job, they remove this little piece here. Why? I don't know, because I can get the alternator out without removing that. I just go straight to pulling the lower bolt on the alternator, which is a 14 also. So this is a nut that I'm pulling right now, and the bolt for this nut actually has a little tab on it that is like a locking tab that prevents it from spinning when you go to tighten it or loosen it up. I'll show you what it looks like once I get it out. So got that loose, and I'm not gonna take that bolt out yet. Okay, this is my swivel here with the extensions. So now what I'm removing down in here is the plug to the alternator, the electrical lead to the alternator, which is right here. On this alternator it's a 12, but it could be a 13 if the alternator has been replaced before. Okay, now I'm using my extension, and also the top bolt off the alternator I also got from up here with the long extension, with my extension. This bolt here on the alternator I also did from the top here with the extension. Okay, so you're going to need to get to that bolt before you go down now and start to remove this bottom bolt. Get everything on the top loose, and then we go to the bottom. Alright, so it takes a little maneuvering to get this bolt out of there. You gotta shake the alternator. Gonna shake the front of the alternator. Give me a little more play to get that bolt out. Okay, and that's the little hook on it that I'm telling you about. So now I'm just getting the alternator out of there. And it's going to be, a little bit tedious getting this alternator out, but you take your time, and like you see I'm doing here, you got to push down on the compressor a little bit, wiggle the alternator back and forth, and if you keep it in that same angle that you notice I have the alternator in there, that top hole kind of off to that angle, and the bottom hole where I have them aligned, and you just keep rocking back and forth, jiggling it, like I said, it's kind of a tight fit, but it'll come out of there. Okay. Now, if this job could be easier, but much longer, if you remove the AC compressor, but then you'd have to get your AC system recharged, vacuumed and recharged. So this way I'm doing it is basically saving you, extra money of going through all of that. Alright, so this is the alternator. It's an oily mess. Like I say, if you own one of these vehicles, make sure, you always make sure your dipstick is pushed in all the way, because the way it's situated on this vehicle is sitting right on top of your alternator, and it'll just pump oil into your alternator and kill it. Alright, so that's the plug right there. Now, like I said, the new alternator is going to go in the reverse order I took the old one out. Same angle. Okay, so just like I took the old one out just like this, and I'm putting the new one in just the same way. So a little bit of wiggling, shaking, pushing. Okay, you have to lift up on the front of it, push down on the front of it. Just keep wiggling back and forth, and it'll inch in slowly but surely. Alright, kind of out of shot, but I got it. This is just cleared and got in. Okay, so now all I have to do is, get the holes lined up, put the bolt in, all right, and then go up to the top. And at this part, what I suggest is, if you have someone to hold the alternator, or if you don't, put some towels under the alternator, but definitely catch the get your 12 volt connected, 12 volt lead connected to the alternator before you catch the top bolt of the alternator, the top bolt that secures the alternator. Because if you go ahead and tighten the alternator up to the engine before aligning your 12 volt lead, it's going to give you a hard time because there's not much room to work in this area like this. Okay? Especially if you have big hands. Okay? So if some people may have to end up, draining the system and removing the fan if they can't get their hands down in there. Because like I said, it's a pretty tight fit from the top. But I was able to do it, and took a little work, but it saved me the time of draining the system and going through all of that. All right. So got it in there, and I'm getting everything back in place. And now I'm going to put, these are my 14 for my compressor. Got everything lined up. And this job took me a total of about average of 5 hours, I would say. But part of that is I'm working outside. It was cold, and I took breaks in between to warm up. You know, so if it was a nice day, I probably could have got this done in 3 hours. And if it wasn't so messy, that would definitely help to speed up the process also. That oil definitely made it a harder job, to hold on to stuff, to get things unplugged, all of that, you know. So if you should be in a situation, might be a good idea to wash the engine down, before you tackle this job. If the problem is caused by a oil leak or oil dumping out onto the alternator. All right, so these bolts, I just got them snug. I didn't tighten them down as yet because I want to catch the back bolts first. So remember to put your electrical lead back in for the compressor. Everything we did, we're going to go into reverse and reattach. Okay, so go to the back and do the rear compressor bolts now. That's the top one. And remember, like I said, you're going to do, this top one is the right outer, when you're facing the back of the compressor, it's the right outer. Okay, that's both of them. That's the top, my 14, and my extension. Okay, and I'm using the ratchet wrench for the lower one. This job, if you are mechanically inclined, like I said, you should be able to, if you're working in the conditions I'm working in, it's going to take you about 5 hours to do it. But if you get the engine cleaned up, if the cause of the alternator failure was the oil, get the engine cleaned up, it will, you know, definitely speed your working time up if the engine is cleaner. This oil definitely slowed me down a lot. Alright, so I'm going to get this wire ran back to where it goes to, which is the oil pressure switch. So right now all I'm doing is plugging in all the little connectors that holds it in place. Little clips that hold the line in place. Rerouting that. Okay. Pull that out of there to get my line back up. And this basically just clicks back in. No hard thing. Just push down on it, click right back in place. On the rear one, same thing. You just click it back on. Push the hose down in. Make sure it's all the way in. You put the clip on top. Push down on it. Now this clip only works one way, so you have to make sure you have it turned the right way. It won't lock unless it's turned the right or the proper way. Well, that's in. There we go. So I'm going to get my 10 millimeter bolts back in, and those are for the coolant line to the oil, goes into the oil filter housing. Remember, doing this job without draining the coolant, without releasing the AC components. Okay, definitely, it's a way of saving money doing it this way instead of going through and doing all of that. Okay, so now I'm plugging my oil pressure switch, plugging in the lead back onto the oil pressure switch, and I'm double checking to make sure everything is back to where it's supposed to be. Rerouting my belt. So I have to pretty much do the reverse of what I did to get it apart. Remember, I had to take the pulley off, the idle pulley, in order to get the belt off, so I'm going to have to do the same thing to get it back on there again. So get my idle pulley back in place. Once you get the belt over the pulley, I can tighten it down. There we go. That's another 13 millimeter. Get the belt on some more. Make sure everything is aligned before I tighten it down. Got them on, so now I'm going to release the tension by pushing down on the tensioner and removing this bolt. There we go. The job is pretty much done here. Double check everything, make sure everything is plugged in properly. This is one little clip, making sure that's in. Checking my oil, because most of the oil was pumped out, so I had to add some oil back to the motor. Remember, this happened because of an oil change, and the dipstick wasn't put back in all the way. Okay, so to add a couple quarts, battery was low, so I had it charging. Now I'm going to reconnect my lead. And when your alternator goes out, if you continue to drive for a while, it can or will drain your battery. So that's what happened in this case. That's why I had to charge the battery some more. So reconnected my lead, and I'm going to start him up and make sure he's charging. Okay, she's running and she's charging. another one done. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Also share if you like. DIY Yachty, and I do these videos, to try to help somebody that's in a similar situation that they need help get these things going, get these jobs fixed. Okay. Hopefully this helps. Next up, remember to subscribe. Alright? One love every time. DIY Yachty.